and welcome back to this semester's edition of the Cavalier Sports Roundtable. To my right, we have Jason Fridge and Jake Rader, and to my left, we have Ryan Chybinski here. And guys, this girls' basketball team, slow start to the season, but conference play started, and they've won 6 straight so far. Last night, they beat Newman. How you guys feeling about that game?
I think it was a very impressive win. I think it was a statement win by the Cavaliers team, and you're definitely starting to see them put the pieces together, especially with the freshmen for this Cavalier team. I mean, Emma Pine, Ella Gordon, waking her way into the starting lineup. This Cavaliers team is getting production from the young players, and it's starting to really show. I think that time in California, that team building that they had really, cemented this team and is showing them as a top team in this conference.
And this is a tradition that we've seen year after year, where they come in, they have a tough non-conference schedule. They go out and play some really good teams. They get challenged, and then they come into the conference ready, battle-tested, and with chemistry. And you see not only the young girls stepping up, but also the upperclassmen. Katie Rodriguez coming in, Defensive Player of the Week. Abby Paolini tying the Cabrini 3-point scoring record against Gwynedd Mercy. They're all hitting their stride at the right time and making for what should be a fun, deep run here into conference play.
Yeah, we were just talking about that 3-point statistic prior to going on air, and yeah, what an impressive achievement. But what I will say is, when you're a team, especially basketball's a game of runs, and right now Cabrini's won 6 in a row, and they're clicking at the right time, and you really just love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I really like to see, kind of going off what Ryan said, you got those freshmen going. They're all mixed in there. And you got the senior leadership of Miranda Leitag, but she's also the only senior on the team. So this team is good now going into conference play, but they're also good for the years to come. They got a lot of juniors, sophomores, freshmen. So I really think that they're poised and ready to go.
Certainly a bright future, and now the question comes is if they can keep this going, because that's kind of been their struggle. They've faced a tough conference team in the semifinal of the AAC tournament, and they haven't been able to crest that hill to get to the top, win the conference. This is going to be a big test for them, especially with a younger squad, trying to use this experience to, really see if they are battle tested and if they can go that extra mile and finally get another banner in the rafters of the Nerdy Pavilion.
Looking at the conference play, their only loss in conference play is back on January 4th against Marymount. I think that's really the only team that can challenge them. That game was a 67-49 loss there for the women. So I definitely think that it's a chance that they can make it to the finals. It depends on where Marymount winds up being seated. I would expect them to be the 1. Cavaliers probably is the 2, depending on how the second round of conference play goes. We'll see how they look against Marymount. They play them again on the 28th here coming up soon. So that's going to be the big game. They're heading down there to play them as well. So that's the big question. That drive is a killer, to drive all the way down to Arlington to play. So we'll have to see how they get off the bus and how they play. If they can play top of their game, I think this Cavaliers team can fight for the number 1 seed.
Yeah, to your point, Ryan, hopefully they don't cramp up on the bus ride. We've all been on those long coach bus rides, and after about an hour and a half in, it's not the most comfortable place to be in the world, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and I think the big part of that game, not even them coming out victorious, I want to see them tighten it up on the scoreboard. 67-49, I think you said, that's a dominant Marymount victory. I want to see us get within maybe a couple possessions, keep it to single digits so that they know they're in reach and they can kind of keep Marymount's confidence high, because obviously they're playing really well, the top seed in the AEC. I'd love to see Cabrini just give them a game, show them there, and then if they meet again in the conference tournament, that's where you get the underdog to come down with a fire lit under them. They truly are clicking at the right time. That's going to be the game to watch.
Yeah, exactly. You're definitely going to want to see them keep within a couple sessions, like you said. Keep it a 1-2 score game. And speaking of 1-2 score games, what a game we saw the other night for Cabrini against Newman in men's basketball. Overtime thriller. Almost lost it, but they were able to hold on to the lead in overtime. That team was rocking.
Absolutely. That's probably the most fired up I've seen the Nerdy Pavilion since probably the Eastern game last year, which was a loss, but for that win was absolutely ridiculous. That Cavaliers team came out, they started out slow. They looked like the Cavaliers team we saw in that first half of the season, where they kind of struggled to find an identity offensively. And then Ryan Byers came out and hit a big layup. He had a big block. Ryan Byers really lit the fire under this team, and then Akil Stewart caught a shooting stroke. Amadou Sarner for 3. The whole team really started to come together, and you saw that Newman team fall apart when the Cavaliers really started to pressure them, which is something that the Cavaliers usually do when teams pressure them.
You mentioned it. It was awesome to see Sarner back into the lineup. He hadn't really been in games for a while. And he was a guy early on in the season that we're looking to carry the Cabrini offense. So seeing him back out there getting production. But I think the big thing is their game plan was just masterclass. That's the last 2 games for them, or even 3. Last week against Centenary, they shut down the number 2 player in the conference, Billy Veras. Went from averaging upwards of 20 points per game. They held him to 9, I think, in the first half. So that was huge. And then coming in this last game, they kind of lucked out. Jalen Vaughn for Newman, top player in the conference, he's out. And they made sure that the other guys that were going to pick up his production, they were met with the same pressure. It was really difficult for Newman to get going, and that's a testament to the Cavaliers' masterclass in the film room.
So to Jason's point there, so Cabrini lucked out with Vaughn's being out. Vaughn's is one of the best players in the country, but they also have one of the best point guards in the country. Ryan Starro Newman was averaging just under 7 assists a game. And what was crazy to see is they took Starr out of the game, and Newman brought in a freshman point guard, Vasquez, who had only played 8 games. And that just changed the entire tempo of the game. I mean, Cabrini won that game because they beat Newman at their own game. They're both 2 up-tempo teams. Cabrini, you can even say, is a running gun team. I mean, the way they control the pace and move fast is crazy to see. Kind of looks like the old UNLV running Rebels of the 90s, honestly. But, yeah, and one thing that Tim McDonald said to Ryan in the post-game interview was that they need to learn how to play to a lead, with a lead, excuse me. And that kind of speaks to the fact that they were running this up-tempo offense. They were controlling the pace of the game up until about 5 or 6 minutes left. And then once they tried to slow it down, Newman was like, okay, now we can play our game. And the game just kind of switched. One more thing I'm going to touch on is the unsung heroes for the Cavaliers who aren't going to always fill up the stat sheet. But I will say, Malik Bailey, plugging him in the paint, literally just sticking his arms up. He was a menace in terms of getting blocks and rebounds. 6'8", he could do it all defensively. And talking about Isaac Bailey, he only had 1 bucket, but this guy was crucial to the Cavalier defensive plan. I mean, the guy was everywhere. Rebounds, steals, blocks. It seems like he had a hand in almost every single defensive play and or stop. So, yeah, great overall team win for the Cavaliers, pulling off the upset.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, like Malik Bailey. That's the one thing we talked about earlier was Cavaliers, they struggled in the size department. And having Malik healthy is very important to keeping this Cavaliers team winning and keeping them going. So that is going to be all the time we have for this week on a Sports Roundtable. From Ryan, Matt, Jake, and Jason, hope everybody has a great week here at Cabrini.